Alright, so now let's talk about resumes that get noticed. And the one thing I want you to keep in mind through the entire video and the entire process of writing your resume is that it is not about you. Think of a job application a lot like sales, a lot like selling to someone. The company, which is hosting the job description, wants something. They are willing to pay for it. Now let's say you have that something. Your job then is to convince them that you can do it, that you have that thing that they're looking for, and that you are worth their money. If someone's going to be spending thousands upon thousands of dollars on your job, plus all the effort goes into training and the HR setup and everything else that they need to do to support you as a worker in their company, they need to know that they're going to get a better return on the investment than they're giving. Think also that you're competing against others who are equally qualified. So you need to be able to stand out by telling them that you can do what they want. The single biggest mindset change that you need to have in your resume is that it is not about how impressive you are. The company doesn't care that you were on the student council. They don't care that you're able to drive a race car. That doesn't matter unless it's relevant to the job. So your job is to show them how your impressive skills and experience can give the company what they want. You can still be amazing, you can still be stand out, but you need to make sure they understand how that amazing standout person can give them what they want. So why do I reject a resume? I see a lot of resumes, especially from students, and the number one reason, if I open up a resume, that interview is theirs to lose. I will reject a resume because the candidate does not demonstrate that they can offer what I'm looking for. Now I want to really focus on that word demonstrate. You might have all the skills I need. One of the unfortunate realities of hiring is that if I were to randomly hire, I would probably, more often than not, get someone who's okay in the job. So you might have all those skills. You might have all the experience that I want to, but your resume talks about something irrelevant or those skills are buried and I just can't find them. So I move on. If I have 2 positions open and I have 50 resumes, I'm looking for reasons to reject resumes. The resumes that come and say, you want this, I've got it. Those are the ones that I'm going to look at. Let's take a quick look at a sample job description. Now this is a real job description. I've obviously removed some things and taken away the company name and everything else, but let's take a look at a couple of things. And this is for an entry-level position that someone either looking for a first co-op or just out of school might be looking for. So they have things like installing new equipment, setting up PCs and workstations, maintaining lab networks, and then assisting in developing and maintaining internal web-based applications. So this is very entry-level stuff. This is something that honestly with about a week of training, they'll probably be fine, but they're still looking for someone who can hit the ground running. So let's think back. Let's say you don't have any experience. You've never really worked in a networking field. You never really worked in a lab before, and maybe you've worked at a McDonald's or something around those lines. So you don't have really relevant experience for this particular job. Sometimes your McDonald's experience is great. If it's a company-focusing job and you're talking to people all the time, that's fantastic. But what if you don't have that? Well, what have you done? Have you ever built your own PC? Have you ever set up a home network? Have you ever plugged in a router? Do you have relevant course experience with networking or computer programming or something around the lines of what they're looking for? You need to make sure that your resume speaks to that. Here's how. Let's take a look at one of the points only because otherwise this video would be hours long. The one I'm looking at is maintain lab networks, which involves installing, configuring, managed switches and routers. Well, let's say that you are the person in your home that everyone goes to when the internet is down. So let's try to write that into the resume. Now, what is important to note is we are not lying about your skills. We are demonstrating how what you've done gives them what they want. So if you've never done this, if you've never set up a home router, or you're not the person who people go to fix it, you need to think of something else to say. But let's take a look. How would I talk about my home router installation and troubleshooting? Well, I set up and maintained a home network. Notice in your resume, you probably wouldn't bold or underline. Some people say to do it. It doesn't really matter for the most part. It depends on who's reading it, but for the most part, we don't really look for those kinds of keywords. I'm just underlining it here so that you can see it. So I use the word maintain because they use the word maintain. I'm demonstrating what they want. They asked me to maintain something. I've maintained something. I'm telling them I've done it. Similarly, then I have installed, configured, and troubleshot a router. Notice how I'm using the words install, configured, and router because that's what they're looking for. And then I want to give a little bit of result. Okay, why does it really matter? Well, it's to ensure minimal downtime during the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you look at that job description and you look at what you can do and you use their words to explain how you've done what they need, that resume is going to stand out. The number one rule: if the company wants X and you can do X, you have to make it clear you can do it. It's not about you. Okay, well, should I include volunteers and maybe my hobbies, activities, that sort of stuff? Number one rule: is it relevant? Think about it. They want X, you've done X, you demonstrate it. Now, let's say you're an amateur bread maker. Well, this networking job has nothing to do with that. So leave it off and focus on other things. Your resume should be about a page, maybe 2 pages if you have a lot of experience, but a page or so is fine. So if you need more space, don't talk to me about how you're a bread maker. But here's another example. You're an amateur PC builder. Maybe you and your friends, they all buy all the components and they put them together. Maybe they put it together PCs for your family. Well, the networking job is very much the place for that. So when you're applying to the networking position and you're an amateur PC builder, go for it. If you're, say, applying to a company that makes bread, let's say you're applying to Weston Bakeries in Waterloo, well, sure, you're an amateur bread maker. That's fantastic. But it has to be relevant. Okay, what about my leadership experience and my scholarships and the fact that I was on the student council and I was a camp counselor, a swim instructor? Are those things relevant? Hopefully you're noticing a pattern by this point. If it's a teaching job and you were a swim instructor, fantastic. If it's a networking position, you were a swim instructor, it's not relevant and you probably have more important things to put on there. Think about something else. When you're applying for a job, you're probably one of dozens to hundreds of resumes. Everyone has those impressive things. Everyone was on the student council. Everybody has their entrance scholarships and so on. If it doesn't distinguish you by telling the company how what you have is what they want, then leave it off. And remember, what you're probably going to have to do is write several different resumes for different companies and different types of companies. Maybe you enjoy programming. You would never use your programming resume to apply to a mechanical design position because it's not relevant. On the other hand, if you are someone who really enjoys talking to people and you were a swim instructor and you were a camp counselor and you were the treasurer on the student council, and it's a customer-facing position, those are fantastic things to put in. Tailor your resume and give them what they want. So now it's time for you to go and revise your resumes. And remember the number one rule: it's not about you.